It may not look like it, but we're professionals. Do us a favor.
Don't try this at home. Whoa!
On this episode of Mythbusters, the fans take command in Mission Control.
Oops.
First up, it's the Heineman versus Newton, as Adam and Jamie cause a cacophony of car carnage.
One car into one wall at 50 miles an hour, 100 mile per hour crash. Bring on the head-on collision.
Testing Jamie's notion on Newton's third law of motion.
So are you ready for some more wanton destruction?
Meanwhile, Carrie, Grant, and Tori are back in the school of hard knocks as they retest Knock Your Socks Off.
Hold on to your socks, Buster.
And this time, they're cruising for maximum bruising. Who are the Mythbusters? Adam Savage.
That is science.
And Jamie Heineman.
We're going to have an adventure.
Between them, more than 30 years of special effects experience.
Fun for the whole family.
Joining them, Grant Imahara,
Formidable projectile.
Carrie Byron,
Let's do it.
and Tori Belleci. They don't just tell the myths, they put them to the test.
So what's up?
What's up is that the fans are in control. It is effectively Mission Control.
So how does that work?
Cast your mind back to Compact. Remember, we smashed two semis into each other at 50 miles per hour, which you said on camera was equivalent to one of them hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour. And the fans went nuts. They are revolting. They rose up and they said, no, two cars hitting each other at 50 miles an hour is not equivalent to one hitting a wall at 100 miles an hour. It's equivalent to one hitting a wall at 50 miles an hour. They say that you were wrong.
Let's test it.
That's what I thought.
It was the episode that had it all. Crashes.
Wow.
Smashes. And according to fans, a subtle physics faux pas.
Both trucks were traveling at about 50 miles an hour when the impact occurred. Now, that's equivalent to a single impact going into a solid wall at 100 miles an hour.
Stop right there. This innocent remark
Now, that's equivalent to a single impact going into a solid wall at 100 miles an hour.
sparked a fan frenzy. They reckon that because of Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. The two cars crashing at 50 miles per hour is the same as one car crashing into a wall at just 50 miles per hour and not 100. But can this counterintuitive argument really be right?
Well, if the fans are in control, how do they want us to do it?
Obviously, they want us to smash some full-size cars into each other. But I think we may be able to illuminate some of the physics here with a scale experiment.
Under more controlled circumstances.
Exactly.
And then we get to smash some full-size cars.
Yes, we do.
But first up, Adam is rigging a rig that will replicate the crash in miniature. The part of the car will be played by two weights on a pendulum.
It's going to be loud.
And the wall
Bring in the immovable object! Bring in the immovable object!
It's time for the immovable object.
will be played by this hunk of steel.
Allow me to demonstrate the rig here. This is our car. It's basically a swinging hammer. This is our wall. It's an unmovable piece of 1,200 pounds of steel. I will be swinging this car into the wall at speed x and speed 2x, which is basically double speed x. That's our 50 mile per hour hit. That's our 100 mile per hour hit. Our measurement will be done simply with a piece of clay that sits right behind the main hammer and between it and a secondary hammer. Obviously, when I swing this car into the wall, that clay will compress. And it will likely compress a different amount at speed x than at speed 2x, and this gives me a beautiful comparison point when I smack two cars into each other a little bit later.
Okay, so the swing from 1x will imitate a 50 mile per hour wall crash, and the 2x swing will double the speed to replicate a crash into a wall at 100 miles per hour.
Car hitting a wall at speed 1x in 3, 2, 1. Satisfying ding, isn't it?
Yeah.
Satisfying maybe, but more importantly, their first data point.
Post-compression length, 1.5.
For a comprehensive result, the guys get into the swing of things and repeat the test 5 more times. Next, it's time to double the speed to 2x for a full swing.
Uncompressed length, 2.6. Car hitting a wall at speed 2x in 3, 2, 1.
I think that's more.
I think that's a lot more.
Yep, and the measurements hammer that home.
0.777. It's a little bit less than twice as compressed as the speed 1x hit.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does.
Almost double the compression. But for a larger sample size, they swing into action and repeat the 2x test 5 times. And now that their clay collection is complete,
What's next?
Well, we've got our metric of speed x and speed 2x. Now it's time to smack 2 cars into each other. So we're going to remove the wall and bring in a second car.
physicists and fans stand by.
They're identical. Let's do it.
Because this is the moment of truth.
Now, that's equivalent to a single impact going into a solid wall at 100 miles an hour.
Will the clay clear up the controversy, or will it be as clear as mud?
Okay, Mythbuster control. What do the fans have for us?
Guess.
Knock your socks off.
Yep.
Man, we totally busted that one.
Apparently not. According to the fans, you can knock someone's socks off if you have a hard enough punch. So apparently we messed it up.
Really? What did they say we got wrong?
Take your pick.
You used the wrong punch.
Your socks had too much elastic in it.
Buster was not supporting his own weight.
Well, looks like we gotta pull our socks up and give this one another go.
Cool.
Cool. Cool.
The last time the team tested the myth that one punch could lift Buster out of his leg wear,
500 PSI was really intense.
nothing they tried could knock his socks off. And the myth was down for the count. Or was it? Well, apparently not. The fans flooded our inbox telling us exactly what we got wrong. Now, armed with a list of mythical mistakes, the team is ready for a rematch.
So, given the huge fan response, where do we start?
Well, the most prevalent criticism is that we used the wrong sock. We used elasticized, long sports socks, the worst case scenario for the experiment.
Meaning they were too difficult to pull off.
Exactly.
All right, well, why don't we start out with the best case scenario sock, the one that requires the least amount of effort to pull off. Once we find that, then we can unleash some heavyweight punches on it.
All right, well, since we need to be meticulous about this, we should also test hairy leg versus hairless leg. So that way we get the best leg sock combination.
Are you volunteering your bare legs?
I don't wax my legs.
Not yet, you don't.
Oh, hey! Round one.
Right, first into the ring is the sock. And to measure just how much force it takes to pull a sock off a human foot,
I hope this is the sock puller and not the knee dislocator.
Grant has designed this sock stripper.
Let me introduce you to the dual sock pulling and measurement machine. Here I have a giant pneumatic cylinder capable of generating over 2,400 pounds of force, which would be equivalent to, say, hanging a car on your sock and letting it drop. Connected to the clevis is a bar with dual high-precision force meters. Now, why 2 meters? Because we want to compare side by side, simultaneously, the difference between a hairy leg and a waxed leg. And finally, here in the seat will sit our test subject, Tori.
Unfortunately for Tori, he is destined for the hot seat. So Carrie is wielding the spatula of doom.
How's that feel?
It actually feels kind of good. What's so bad about waxing?
So ready? 1, 2, 3.
With Tori's legs now covering both bases, smooth and hairy, it's time to select the sock.
What's with all the socks?
Well, for this test, we are going to leave no sock untested. Look at this. We have long socks, short socks, cotton socks, nylon, wool, silk. And finally, genuine 19th century boxing socks. We're going to pull all of these socks off of Tori's feet and find the socks of least resistance.
Ew, Tori's feet, disgusting. Shut up.
Yep, the sock stripper is set, so the team starts at the top.
Okay, this is sock number 1. Cotton, long socks, loose elastic.
3, 2, 1.
Carrie notes the numbers, and then it's just apply, strip, and repeat.
Good man. I need you to take off my socks.
Long sock acrylic nylon. Push the button.
Oh! Didn't even come off my foot.
They both peaked out at 35.38.
Tori gets his socks off, over and over and over, as the team tries socks of every material and length to leave no sock untested, just as you demanded.
So these ones are the lovely socks knit with love from a fan.
All right.
Ooh, those look good.
5.64 pounds.
Finally, after testing over 50 types of socks, they've got the data they need.
So here's something crazy. Out of our top 4 contenders, 2 of them were long socks and 2 of them were short socks. So it's looking like fabric is much more important than length. Who would have thunk?
Now, what we also found was that leg hair was a fairly big factor in making it harder to pull the sock off. In most cases, the smoother leg had less resistance.
But most importantly, the wool knit sock is the sock of least resistance, requiring only 5.6 pounds of force to rip it from a bare leg.
So, the combination of variables that makes for the best sock are smooth leg and non-elastic woven woolen sock. That's going to be your best sock for trying to knock your socks off.
Coming up next,
This is the moment of truth.
were the fans right? In Compact, the fans detected a disturbance in the force.
The airbag went off.
So now it's Mythbusters versus Sir Isaac Newton. But for whom does the bell toll?
These 2 pieces of clay tell the tale. This is the clay compressed at speed 1x. This is the clay compressed at speed 2x. Now, if Jamie's right that 2 cars hitting each other at speed x is equivalent to 1 car hitting a wall at speed 2x, then this is what the clay is going to look like when we smash 2 cars into each other at speed x. If the myth is true, this is what the clay in those cars is going to look like. Which is it? I quite honestly have no idea.
This is the moment of truth. You ready to go? What are you doing back there?
I'm ready. I'm going to cut from top dead center so that the amount of force on both is the same.
Okay.
Here we go. 2 cars smashing into each other at speed 1x. And 3, 2, 1.
The clay catastrophe goes under the hammer. And judging by first impressions, it looks like the fans may be onto something.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the compression I can see from here does not look like no 2x speed hit.
It looks like a 1x speed hit.
It looks a lot closer to a 1x than a 2x, but let's do the measurements. 1.54. 1.28.
The results are in. The 2-car test clay is almost identical to the clay from the 1x tests, and nothing like the 2x tests.
With all the variance in all of our tests, one thing was really consistent, was that the 2x speed hits looked a lot like this, and the 1x speed hits look a lot like this. And our head-on collision, it looks like this.
So where are we with the story?
Well, the hammers and clay seem to be saying that it's looking pretty good for the myth, that 2 cars hitting each other at 50 miles an hour might actually be equivalent to 1 car hitting a wall at 50 miles an hour, and not at 100, as you previously stated.
What do you want to do next?
Next, I want to smash some cars.
All right, then.
Yep, although the impressionable clay supports the fan theory, will that be true when they test the metal of actual automobiles?
Here we are.
At a very special location.
It's a platform 120 feet tall just for dropping stuff. This is a motorized steel barrel just for strapping down a car and turning it upside down. I'm not sure what this one's for, but I'm pretty sure I could come up with something cool to do with it. Where am I? I'm in Arizona, in the middle of 150 acres of pure awesome. This is pretty much what I would design as my ideal playground. It's a test facility designed to break things, smash things, make them fail, and analyze the aftermath. This is one of the test facilities owned by Exponent Systems, and today they're going to help us smash some cars.
And first up to feel the crash force is this.
So this is our car.
This is our car. We're going to smash it at 50 miles an hour into a wall.
Well, let's get started.
All right. How's all this going to go down? This is a 1,280-foot long crash rail. It has a track embedded in it and a cable that pulls a car along that track towards the impact spot. These two V8 engines, which have about 800 horsepower between them, pull this cable, which pulls the car up to the desired speed. When the car gets to about here, the cable's going to release it, so it's traveling only under its own momentum, right into this big steel thing. It's at this point that we'll have a complete picture of what happens to a car when it's going 50 miles an hour and comes to a dead stop by crashing into a wall.
It's not just a picture they'll be getting. Jamie has also added some high-tech trickery to capture the force facts.
There we go. Inside the car, underneath the back seat, is mounted a block of accelerometers that measure deceleration of the impact in 3 separate axes of movement. That information is sent back to a data logger that's mounted in the back of the car. It records all that information. It's kind of like a black box.
This crash, it's basically a data point, one of 2 that we will obtain in order to correctly analyze our head-on collision. Careful viewers will note that in the full scale, we're following the same experimental procedure as we did with our hammers and clay. We think it has a nice symmetry. Shall we log the pre-crash length?
Sure.
15 feet.
All right, then.
All right, the cable's ready. Come on in.
With the length logged and the black box engaged, the car is ready to meet its fate, slamming into a solid steel wall at 50 miles per hour.
All right, this is one car into one wall at 50 miles an hour. Take it away.
Okay, Bob, we're ready for roll-off.
The V8 engines roar as they spin the cable. And the car gains speed till it's holding at precisely 50 miles per hour. And then plows headlong into a wall of steel.
Oops.
I hope they're insured.
Yep, it's a car crash, I think.
Yeah, I'd say what happened here is this car here hit this wall. There.
It's a spectacular smash. The force of the impact crunched the front of the car like a car hitting a steel wall at 50 miles per hour, leaving it 3.5 feet shorter.
11 feet 7 inches.
But of course, that's not the only impact stat.
What say we find out what the G load was?
These guys are downloading the data about the crash right now.
Okay, here's the stats on that crash. This car hit that wall at 50.7 miles per hour and took an average of 58 Gs in the longitudinal direction. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that when we smash a car into this wall at 100 miles an hour, the G load is going to be significantly higher.
Well, luckily for us, the only way to confirm that is more car carnage.
There was no way I was going to do it, and you did it without complaining. If you want to see what Buster did, go to discovery.com/Mythbusters and check it out.
Could a punch ever be so powerful it knocks your socks off? The fans say yes, as long as it's the right sock on the right leg with the right punch.
Oh, got him in the...
The Mythbusters have the sock of least resistance sewn up.
Those slipped right off.
So next they're finding Buster some real legs.
Now, last time we did this experiment, we used these feet. Now, you felt like they didn't have the same kind of resistance that human skin would have. So, I've casted up my foot. And now I'm going to try different materials to see what kind of material is as close to human skin.
Tori's used plastic, ballistics medium, foam, and lambskin leather to find something that simulates a skin-like surface.
Oh, what is that?
This feels like somebody uses lotion.
Carrie likes the lambskin.
I really think this is going to be the winner because it really just feels the most like skin, which is probably because it is skin.
And after a quick run of tug tests on the sock puller, it turns out her instincts were flawless.
Yes, 6.25. This is the most like human skin.
The leather leg, complete with articulated ankles, has an identical sock resistance to Tori's waxed leg, making it perfect for testing.
I've been working on my yoga. I think I'm getting pretty good.
And now that Buster has 2 left feet, he's cruising for a bruising.
Looks like the Bionic Man.
The team have a whole range of punches to throw.
It's like assembling an old friend.
But first, they're starting with a familiar enemy, Nitro Punch.
Now, I originally built this nitrogen cannon to fire a grappling hook from a moving car. The first time we tested it, it flew off the table like a rocket. The second time we tested it, it punched a hole in the wall. That is the power of the nitrogen cannon.
But before Nitro is unleashed, Grant's devising a system to get the drop on Buster.
So this, my friends, is the laser trigger. It's got a beam right here and a sensor up here. When I break the beam, it fires a solenoid that drops Buster on his own weight.
Buster's full weight will be on his feet each time he's clobbered. So, seconds out, it's round 1, the uppercut.
We're about to knock you out.
Last time we pulled out Nitro Punch and gave Buster a really good uppercut, we almost knocked his socks off, and that was with a tight sports sock. Now we're using this woolen hand knit sock. I think this might actually work.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
500 PSI, we're good to go.
All right.
Okay, this is uppercut with proper socks and legs.
All right. Fight.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
What happened?
Wow. We knocked him out. I can't tell if his socks came off or not.
That punch just landed a massive 6,000 Newton uppercut straight to Buster's chin. That's twice the force of a heavyweight boxer.
We stone cold knocked him out, but his socks are still on. They are not coming off. No matter how much force is hitting him, the socks are staying on. It looks like this is not the punch.
Despite all the fan-inspired changes, the uppercut didn't cut it. But there's more bare-knuckle action to come.
Coming up next on Mythbuster, find out what kind of force it takes to knock your socks off.
Duking it out in the ring can be a dangerous business. But could a prize-fighting punch knock your socks clean off? So far, no.
It didn't work before, it didn't work this time.
But the Mythbusters aren't throwing in the towel yet.
And that's because the fans think we have 2 other kinds of punches to try. The right hook and the body blow. We'll be testing both of these punches with robots because they have superhuman strength. And if they can't knock the socks off, they'll never get punched off. But we're going to start out by getting hooked.
In the sweet science of bruising, a right hook packs a powerful punch. By pivoting as he swings, a boxer drives the force of the blow across his opponent's body. It's this transverse momentum that could focus the friction to force the feet from the socks. For round 2 of punching, it's Buster versus the right hook.
So, gentle viewers, to address your very important concerns, I've built this incredible punching robot that simulates a right hook.
And these are the hand-knit wool socks that have the least resistance, and they are over our human-like feet.
And this is our quick release and laser trigger. So just before impact, it will release Buster so he's standing on his own weight, just as you requested. We're ready to go.
Fight! All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Wow.
Wow.
We knocked him over, but look, his socks are still on.
One massive right hook to the head, and the force is enough to knock Buster sideways. But not his socks.
That punch was incredible. I mean, the power, bang! And Buster actually did a somersault. However, did not knock his socks off. But Buster has one heck of a chin. Looks like he wants to go for another round.
And for the last round, the team have the most powerful punch yet, the body blow.
Now, our body blow machine is the most powerful one we have, and that clocked in at 52,000 newtons, or 15 times your average boxer.
That massive momentum will be delivered right into Buster's breadbasket.
This is Knock Your Socks Off, straightforward body blow. We have knit socks, leather legs, and Buster on his own weight, 180 pounds.
Fight! All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Whoa! We knocked him out, but still, his socks remain on.
Although there was some encouraging sock movement, even a punch 15 times that of a heavyweight boxer couldn't separate Buster's legs from his socks.
So, the myth that you can punch someone out of their socks is busted. The uppercut couldn't do it, the right hook couldn't do it, even the super body blow could not do it. They all failed, even using the socks that were the easiest to come off. But don't worry, we're not gonna give up. We're gonna keep trying. Ugh.
After the break,
Let's go twice as fast.
Adam and Jamie drive another car up the wall.
Please do not try what we do on this show at home.
We're what you call experts.
It's safer that way.
Adam and Jamie are having a smashing time. All in the name of physics.
How did we get here? Well, it all started when Jamie said this.
Both trucks were traveling at about 50 miles an hour. That's equivalent to a single impact going into a solid wall at 100 miles an hour.
That's pretty sound reasoning for my money, but no, the fans cried. Two cars hitting each other at 50 miles per hour do not equal one car hitting a wall at 100 miles per hour. Because their mass is the same, they cancel each other out, and it's no different than one car hitting a wall at 50 miles an hour. I find this surprising and hard to wrap my head around, but our scale experiments seem to bear it out. But of course, we're not going to leave it there.
This is what happens when you crash a car into a wall at 50 miles an hour. Next up, we're going to be crashing a car into a wall at 100 miles an hour. How bad will it be? We're just going to have to crash it to find out.
So, an identical car, well, except for the fact it's lemon yellow,
That's good. Bring it straight in.
is hooked up to the track.
All right.
Now, the 50-mile-per-hour impact clocked an impressive 58 Gs. But will doubling the speed double the damage to this car?
It's good. I gotta say that after watching that 50-mile-an-hour crash into the wall, I have a really hard time imagining that the 100-mile-per-hour crash is gonna compress the car that much more. I don't know.
So are you ready for some more wanton destruction?
I am. Let's go twice as fast.
All right.
Wanton destruction it is, as the Mythbusters retire to a safe distance and the countdown begins.
You ready to make this happen?
I can't wait. I haven't seen a 100-mile-an-hour crash before.
No. All right, commence with the 100-mile-per-hour crash.
On Adam's command, the engines whir into life, straining to get the car up to exactly 100 miles per hour. It hurtles down the track.
It's going flat out.
The cable uncouples, and the car plows into its final destination. The guys are understandably speechless. That impact crushed the lemon car with such force, it should be in a glass with ice and a cocktail umbrella.
It's in a very different state than it was at 50 miles per hour.
Yeah, it's a little shorter.
I mean, we got a clear difference between the two crashes.
Uh-huh.
I can't wait to see what the data set says about the G-load.
If the data's still intact.
If anything's still intact.
Well, thanks to its position in the trunk, the black box survived.
So did we successfully retrieve anything?
We've got good data.
Really?
Yeah, we've got a peak on the left side of 140 and a peak on the right side of 230. And we'd normally just average those to get a resultant there.
So the midpoint's somewhere around 185?
185.
That's nice. That's significantly more than, what was the last one? 58?
58.
Data!
3 times the G's of the 50-mile-per-hour test is certainly significant. But that's not the only data set they're collecting.
Before it was 15 feet. Now it's 8 feet.
So not only did the G-load triple, the crash compacted almost half of the car. And remember, these 2 cars were identical.
This may just seem like some gratuitous violence, but there's actually some really interesting science going on when you compare these 2 impacts. You would think that doubling the speed would give you twice the severity of the impact, but the physics says you're actually looking at more like 4 times the severity of the impact. Our sensors are showing 3 times the G's, and our wreckage is showing about twice the damage. So what's going on here? Well, just like this can, the more I crush it, the more it resists crushing. There's some complex physics going on here, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand it. The cars speak for themselves.
They certainly do. And after 2 spectacular crashes, they have their benchmarks for car carnage.
Well, we've got our data points.
And they are lovely. I guess it's time to move on to the main event.
Yep.
Next up,
hold on to your socks, Buster!
the Mythbusters think outside the boxing ring.
All right, look, we've tried everything, but even with superhuman strength and the best case scenario sock, you still can't knock someone's socks off with a punch.
No, but I think if we take this outside the boxing ring, we're going to see some results.
Yeah, but last time we ramped this up, we used that frightening huge pendulum, and we still got nowhere.
You know, that's another fan complaint. Here, listen. Your pendulum hit Buster at a lower speed than your punching rig, so this test was actually a ramp down rather than up.
Yeah, but it did weigh a lot more.
True. But you know what? To directly address that concern, why don't we increase both the mass and the speed?
Okay, how about this? Big steel girder, we weld it to a truck, we drive straight at Buster, and BAM! Ouch!
For the final knockout round, they're heading to Alameda to definitively ramp this myth up once and for all.
Brian, thank you so much for bringing your truck out. Now tell me what this thing can do.
This truck is about 20,000 pounds plus loaded. It's turbo diesel. It can reach speeds of 80 miles an hour, and it's ready to take down Buster.
I think this is the right truck. So you guys felt like the pendulum wasn't good enough. Well, this is what I have for you. What I have here is a 600-pound steel beam that I'm about to weld to this 13,000-pound truck.
It's a simple build. 1 giant girder welded to 1 turbocharged truck.
All right, time to fight.
And voila, mass plus speed equals the behemoth of all battering rams. While further down the range, Grant sets up his laser quick release and Carrie erects the structure for Buster's last stand.
Now, I've built a nice little balanced structure so that Buster can hang, and then I'm painting the entire thing yellow, maybe a little bit of pink, so that you can see it from far, far away, because it's going to be a really long run-up.
Once Carrie's hangman harness is complete, it's time to guide that girder right into Buster's reinforced guts. And they're going to start at a bone-crunching 40 miles per hour.
We are about to hit Buster with 4,000 times the power as any boxer to see whether or not we can knock his socks off. I have a feeling we're going to knock his legs off before his socks come off, but let's see what happens.
Remember, Buster is wearing the socks of least resistance on his human-like legs. He'll be standing on all 180 pounds of his own weight, and at impact, he'll be hit with 4,000 times the force of a heavyweight boxing punch. Will that be enough for the socks to fly?
All right, getting into position.
This is human-like surface with the socks of least resistance, Buster on his own weight.
Wait, go at 40 miles an hour.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1, coming at you.
The truck speeds down the track at 40 miles per hour.
Come on, do it.
Triggers the quick release. Contact.
Ow! Didn't knock his socks up, but it knocked his hand off.
His hand flew off.
But his socks are still on. We nailed him.
The giant girder made contact, but it still wasn't a socks-off knock. However, there is good news.
They almost came up in the heel.
It almost lifted him out of his socks.
Well, you know what that means. We have to ramp it up.
Yeah, you know what? This will go 65 with all this weight. 65 miles an hour might be enough to knock his socks off.
Let's do it.
Do it. We're going to hit him at 65 miles an hour with this steel beam. And it's going to be not 2 or 3 times more powerful than a human boxer. It's going to be 10,000 times more powerful than that boxer. Surely, this has got to be the thing that knocks him out of his socks.
Shirley is right. If 10,000 times the force of a boxer can't knock the socks off Buster, then it can't be done.
I think we've really got a chance here.
We got all the elements.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
Let's hit him at
65 miles an hour.
Here we go. This is the main event.
Let's see if we can knock Buster's socks off.
The truck takes its position. Then it's pedal to the metal
50 miles an hour!
as it thunders down the track.
Hold on to your socks, Buster!
65 miles an hour.
Houston, we have liftoff.
We knocked his socks off.
Dude! Oh my God! We knocked his socks off!
I turned around, all I could see was like an explosion, and I saw 2 socks floating down to the ground.
There you have it. 1 30 million Newton knock, 1 de-socked Buster, and 3 ecstatic Mythbusters. But one question remains.
My big question is, what came off first, the socks or the feet?
Oh! His whole face flipped out.
Look!
Yes! The socks came off! Look at that!
That's great! Right on.
They didn't been dragged off.
No.
They got knocked off. After the first time I heard this boxing myth, I thought to myself, who knows? Maybe it's possible. But after we first tested it, I thought there is no way you can knock somebody's socks off. Until now. After seeing what I just saw, where we hit Buster, knocked him out of his socks, it's possible. I mean, a boxer couldn't do it, but we could.
So after 20-some-odd sock tests, multiple punches, does the phrase, knock your socks off, still hold true? Yes, as a matter of fact, you can knock someone's socks off. The caveat is that it's going to take 10,000 times what a boxer could do. So yes, you can use the phrase, but use it lightly.
Up next, the Mythbusters head headlong into a head-on collision.
This car right here hit a wall at 50 miles an hour. This car hit a wall at 100 miles an hour. I think the difference is pretty clear. The question is, when we smack 2 cars together at 50 miles an hour, are they going to look like that? Or are they going to look like this? We're going to smash 2 more cars just to find out.
It's the final act of Carmageddon. 2 cars in a 50-mile-per-hour head-on collision.
Here's how this breaks down. At this end of the track, the yellow car.
And at this end sits the orange car.
And here in the middle, These two cars will meet in a 50-mile-per-hour handshake of destruction that will hopefully answer all the questions we have about the crash forces involved.
Adam's predicting those answers will give the thumbs up to Newton.
This one has really been a brain bender, but I have a prediction for this final experiment. I think that when all is said and done, it's going to prove that Jamie was wrong and that the fans were actually right. That when these two cars hit at 50, they're going to look like the car that hit the wall at 50, not the one that hit the wall at 100.
And Jamie agrees.
Based on our small-scale testing, what we should see at the end of this head-on collision should look pretty much like the 50-mile-an-hour crash against a wall.
It's crunch time for a force impact. Will the full-scale test prove the fans right?
That's it. Well, I think it's time to do the final test. They're all set up.
It would seem so. I'm going to call it. Bring on the head-on collision.
From each end of the 1,280-foot track, the identical 1.5-ton cars take off. Both cars gain speed as they head headlong down the track towards their head-on collision. Then, as both cars reach 50 miles per hour,
it's about to happen.
The cables uncouple.
That was spectacular.
What can you say?
What can you say? That breathtaking finale is the final piece of their physics puzzle. And as the Mythbusters survey the wreck of a two-car 50-mile-per-hour pileup, they're playing Spot the Difference.
There's a windshield between them.
It's pretty evident, isn't it?
It really is.
It looks just like the 50-mile-an-hour against a wall crash.
And nothing like the 100.
Nope.
Amazing. This tells me the whole story. I don't need to see the accelerometer data or anything. These two cars, which hit each other at 50 miles an hour, look exactly like the car we smacked into the wall at 50 miles an hour. That tells me everything I need to know.
Well, the figures are in. The orange car got 52 Gs, the yellow car got 58 Gs, which, give or take a few Gs, is the same as what we got against a wall at 50 miles an hour.
Gee whiz. And the damage data backs up those numbers. Both of the cars are virtually the same length as the 50-mile-per-hour wall test at 11.5 feet. And after a spectacular spree of automotive mayhem, there is irrefutable proof that those physicist fans had it right. Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, holds true. Although the two-car crash at 50 miles per hour doubles the speed, the energy of the crash is transferred to twice the mass, halving it, resulting in a crash that looks like just one car into a wall at 50 miles per hour.
I made a statement that two cars hitting each other at 50 miles an hour was the same as one car hitting a solid wall at 100. That was a mistake, but you know what? I'm okay with it. That's how you learn stuff.
I love smashing stuff for science.
One way or another, it's all just shrapnel.